Welcome to This is Kingdom. I almost said why we stay.
We have to not start like that.
Say this is Grace.
Everyone, 3, 2, 1, say the best thing that happened to you this week. Really fast.
Oh, go TJ.
Baby shower.
Hey.
That's so cute.
That's nice.
Yep.
I just forgot everything I did this week. So
Talon, we hung out.
I went to a rodeo last night,
that's
and
fun.
they were like praying with like music behind at the rodeo, and then this
you
like
love that.
police came out and sang the national anthem, and my heart was so filled, y'all.
Wow.
So filled. That was it. Grace?
I imagine you thriving at a rodeo. Like when I
No,
think about,
I feel at home.
Yeah. That feels like when I think about you in your dream scenario, like there'd probably have to be a rodeo
Oh,
involved.
100%. 100%.
I love that. Well,
What's
welcome.
yours?
Oh, I forgot that I didn't say anything. Mine, I don't know. I just got back from a trip, so I feel like I just was like seeing everyone and like hanging out and having a good time. It was good.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah. Welcome to This is Kingdom. This is Grace.
This is Talon.
This is TJ.
And y'all, this is going to be a good one. Today, we are going over the talk, Have I Truly Been Forgiven by Other K. Brett. Wow. It really threw me off when the first thing was an initial, not his name. That got me. K. Brett Nattress. Okay, now I'm ready. I'm sorry. It really, I thought I read it wrong. Oh, it's Nattress, not Nattress. I'm so sorry. Okay. TJ. That made me red. I blushed on that one.
All right. Okay. So actually, for this episode, we're not even gonna have an episode. Just go read the talk. Like, it's so good. This is my favorite talk ever. I love the prodigal son story. Like I love the forgiveness stories. But I'm gonna just read this phrase and then maybe ask a question. But for real, y'all, if you don't remember this talk or if you haven't read it, like go read it. Such a cool, inspiring story, especially for those of us who live life a little on edge, and who, made some mistakes and need to come back. But I just want to read this phrase kind of towards the end of his talk. He says, "To those who have strayed from the covenant path, please know there is always hope, there is always healing, and there is always a way back." And I just love that. I love the story he shares about Danny boy. And this is a big, this is kind of a hot topic, right? Sometimes making mistakes, feeling bad, feeling sad, not knowing if we've been forgiven. I kind of want to start with that question. Is that okay? I feel like this is a big thing that I'll get with a lot of seminary students is like that question of how do I know I've truly been forgiven? And that's kind of a question that Danny wrestles with kind of even at the end of his mission. But what are some of your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm glad we're talking about this because it's one of the saddest things to like see someone in that state. And I've seen myself in that state. You know what I mean? And I think from the outside, sometimes you're looking at someone, it's like, oh, you're doing so much good. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're living a good life. But sometimes we, more than anyone, like hold on to things from the past. And so like, I'm really glad we're bringing this up. I'll let Grace actually answer the question. I'm just glad we're talking about it.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that I was a really good expert on this. I actually am really not. And to be honest, I think this is actually, like you guys already said this, like so many people struggle with this. And I feel like I fall into that category more than I fall into the category of people that have a lot of wisdom on it. So I won't speak necessarily, I don't feel like I can answer that adequately, but like there's this time in my life I remember, and it was 1800. There's a time I'm like in a nursing home. I'm like, there's a time in my life I remember. I'm like, okay. It was literally like in COVID. It was like 2020. Okay, so it was like 3 years ago, and it was like kind of this moment that I was like really like seeking forgiveness, and I was like trying to figure it out. And I remember one day it just like randomly like hit me. I was like, oh no, like I'm good. Like Jesus is good enough to cover me. Like it was like this like really good moment, and I like kind of started realizing I was like, oh, I like am feeling the spirit. Like there was like different things that like kind of clued me back in that I was like, oh no, like I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay, and this is gonna be okay. And it was like one of the sweetest feelings in the entire world. But what happened after is I went on a walk, because that's what you did when you couldn't do anything else. And I went on a walk with this girl, and we were just like kind of chatting, and we were walking, and I like kind of started talking about it, and then all of a sudden there's this moment, and I was like, you know what? It is really easy for me to talk about Jesus, like healing Jesus, and it's really easy for me to talk about like the miraculous Jesus, and it's really easy for me to talk about like the Jesus that has like bigger plans than like I could have ever given myself. But it is really hard for me to talk about the forgiving Jesus. And I think it's because I'm ashamed. Like, I'm like so ashamed to say that I needed the Jesus that would forgive me. Like, I almost just like avoid that at all costs. Like, I don't like to talk about it. And part of me wonders if like maybe one of the reasons that so many people are like, I don't know if I've been forgiven, I don't know if I've been forgiven, is because people who have experienced like that sweet, like absolutely like mind like blowing like feeling of grace and forgiveness. Like sometimes I think we walk away and we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to admit that we needed him like that. And I'm like, oh, but like, wait, like those are the stories that like people need. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. Well, I think honestly, the biggest thing that I was thinking while you were talking is I wonder when we're having this struggle of like not being able to forgive ourselves, like I wonder who we're doubting. And I think like at first glance, it's like, oh yeah, I'm doubting myself and like I'm doubting my worth and like I'm doubting me. But I actually think we might be doubting Jesus. I think we actually might be doubting that he is as forgiving as he says he is. I think we like might be doubting that he can actually free us from past mistakes and like forget that as much as he says he can. You know what I mean? And I just like, I think of my dad, honestly, when I think of this, because he's actually one of the most forgiving people that I know. And like, I can't tell you the amount of times that like I've done something dumb. Like growing up, I would, and I'd go to my dad, I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. He'd be like, it's all good. We're moving on. And I'm like so grateful for him because I think because of him, I can understand like how forgiving Christ is. But I think of all the people that maybe haven't had that. Like maybe you've had people in your life that aren't that forgiving, that you like mess up and they cut you out. You know what I mean? Or like they get so crazy mad. And all of a sudden, that's how we think Jesus is. We start like characterizing him like the people in our lives that we know.
That's so true. Man, and I feel like hearing that town like makes me want to be more forgiving to people so that they could feel that from Jesus more, so that maybe they don't get stuck in that just feeling ashamed, because it's a real thing. And I felt ashamed too. I want to point out real quick that I always love to point out with the students, the difference, guilt and shame, right? Because some of this can be helpful. Like some of this is productive, right? The feelings when we make a mistake, when we go off the path, like it's good, I think, to feel a little bit of guilt, which I would kind of define in my own words as I did a bad thing, still a good person, right? Whereas shame is more, I did a bad thing, I'm a bad person. And I feel like that shame has held me back, and I feel like even will keep me in some of the bad behaviors that I'm trying to change anyway. And so I think that's tough. One story I want to bring up, and then, just the woman taken in adultery. Favorite story. You've been thinking about that?
Yes, exactly.
Favorite story, man. Go read that story too. John 8, right? Great example of seeing Jesus and his forgiveness. And I love that they use that sin. Like it wasn't like same within the talk, right? Where he says he was doing all kinds of drugs, including methamphetamine, right? Specific in the talk. And I love that Jesus is, or the scriptures are specific with her sin, right? Adultery, it's no like small thing, right?
Yeah.
But even with adultery, you see Jesus going to her level, forgiving her, loving her, taking care of her. And at the same time, at the end, giving her a little pat on the back, like, hey, but like go and sin no more. Like, let's get this together, right? So I love seeing Jesus' example in that forgiveness. Still kind of a hard thing to apply to us. Right, sometimes.
Well, and I think when it gets really hard to forgive ourselves is like the second and third time. Because I think we look at that story with the woman caught in adultery, and it's like, oh yeah, like Jesus is going to forgive her. It's like, oh yeah, Jesus forgave me the first time too. But it's like, actually, I've done that same thing again now, like 6 more times.
Oh yeah.
But I've thought so much, like I so wish, and it's not there, but I wish like in the Bible, we knew what happened with that woman who was caught in adultery. Like I really wish we could follow her life, because I would be really surprised. Obviously, we don't know, but I would be really surprised if she like never slipped up again,
Totally.
And I'm just like, man, but I think every time she went back to Jesus, the answer would be the exact same. Like, I don't think there's a point that answer would change. I think every single time it would be go and sin no more,
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's not forget that I think before that would come him getting on her level. It's not like he's going to like scold her every single time. I don't know. I think it's interesting, and I think you're really onto something about the fact that maybe this is so much less about what we have done and so much more about what he did.
Boom.
Like actually Like we could fill this entire episode with us going through about people that did something, and like they got forgiven. It has nothing to do what they did. It has absolutely nothing to do. Every single person could share a different story, but the solution is always the same, and it was him on the cross. Like that is the solution for every single person. And I think that it's true. If you do not believe that Jesus is as good as he says he is, then you will sit every single day in sin. And you don't even have to, because the battle for sin was already won. He already beat it. And now I feel like it's just being like, okay, wait, like it doesn't matter what my story is, because I know his. And his was conquering sin.
Amen. Boom. I just think my last thought, y'all, like, it's so frustrating when somebody doesn't believe you, you know, when you're like, oh no, I got you. Like, oh no, I love you. Oh no, like I'm with you. And they're like not trusting you. It's so frustrating. And I wonder if Jesus is in that boat a lot, where he's like, oh, I said I'd forgive you and I meant it. So my challenge just for everyone listening right now is like, maybe it's not you need to go grow confidence in. Maybe it's Jesus that you need to grow confidence in.
Boom. Love it. Song time? I was feeling lost, didn't know where to go, was having fun but at a cost. Who I was I didn't know, deep inside I knew there was more to life than this, and that desire grew as I learned that I was his, as I learned that I was his. Don't wanna do my own thing anymore, because you give me so much more. Yeah. Lord, you are everything, everything to me. You brought beauty to my ashes, you parted my Red Seas, and I know that you're with me wherever I go. You're molding me daily, you turn my scarlet into snow, you turn my scarlet into snow. Now I still make mistakes, there's times I trip and fall, but now I know that your grace isn't far away at all. I will turn to you, 'cause you know just what I need. I will choose your ways, 'cause your truth it sets me free. Yeah, your truth it sets me free. Don't wanna do my own thing anymore, because you give me so much more. Yeah. Lord, you are everything, everything to me. You brought beauty to my ashes, you parted my Red Seas, and I know that you're with me wherever I go. You're molding me daily, you turn my scarlet into snow. You're molding me daily, you turn my scarlet into snow. You turn my scarlet into snow.
See you next week.